Hi everyone, this is Karen Whooley, and welcome to this week's Team Whooleygan live chat with Karen. I'm so excited you guys are all here. I'll be going over to the chat room and see who's all here in just a minute. But I just wanted to remind you, if you wanted to get to know me better, if this is the first time you're ever watching, go to this link at the bottom of my screen. This is my website, KarenWhooley.com. And while you're there, make sure that you subscribe to my newsletter. If you want to direct subscribe, this is the link right here. When you subscribe to my newsletter, you get 25% off all new release patterns. You get discounts on books. You're the first to know about classes. And there's a whole lot more, crochet alongs, pattern clubs, and things like that. So make sure you subscribe. This is the first time you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. I had to think about that for a second. It's the red button. Make sure you subscribe and also hit that thumbs up button as well so that everyone knows that you're watching these videos, and it helps get my videos seen by other people. I'm going to get a sip of water here. Hang on one sec, guys. Okay, so if you're on Instagram, make sure you follow me there. I'm at Karen Whooley. I'm most active there, so make sure you subscribe or follow me there and see all the new things that are happening. Once this video is over, I upload it also to my Rumble channel, which is this link right here. Rumble is another video streaming platform that I really like. I can't live stream there yet, but I know a lot of people don't like YouTube, so Rumble is another option. So I'm going to head over now to the chat room, see who's all here. Let's see this. And I had a little bit of an issue this morning with the chat room, so I apologize for all those weird posts. Linda's here. Let's see, you and Brad are both here, and you smashed that like button. Thank you so much. And Pat's here. Good morning, Pat. Hope all is well. And there's Karen McKenna. Looking forward to getting more organized. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But I do have some questions for you about what you want to hear about being organized. So while I'm chatting about what I'm working on in the studio, tell me if it's hooks, patterns, digital patterns, etc. So let me know so that I can, books, that kind of thing, tools, whatever. So I want to be able to touch a little bit on everything. I'm going to focus mostly on crochet hooks and on my print patterns, but I will show you how I am starting to organize my digital patterns as well, because I haven't been so good with that. Anyway, so I hope you guys are all doing great. I have been working on some swatches this week. I finished one. I think if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen it. It's pulled really cool. So this is actually a swatch for a new project I'm going to be doing. The main part of it is done in double crochet. So I swatched, it's a little bit bigger than a 6-inch square. And I always, whenever I swatch, guys, just so you know, anytime you want to swatch, the best thing to do is to at least make a 6-inch square. I know that most patterns give you gauge in 4 inches. But if you do a 6-inch square, and I think we've talked about this before in swatching, you always want to measure your gauge in the middle of the swatch, both stitch gauge and row gauge, because whatever happens on the edge can distort your fabric and your gauge won't be right. And a lot of people say I have lying swatches, and that's the reason why. Now, this one has not been blocked yet. I'm going to be doing that today, but I won't, because I didn't want to block it yet because I wanted to be able to show it to you, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be dry or not. So that is what I've been working on. For you guys who want to know what this is the Huasco. It's the Araucana sock yarn. It's Huasco sock, hand painted. And I have a link down there at the bottom with a link so you can see all the colors. This is color number 1023, and it's called Rosa Dorada. And so it's going to be a cool little kid sweater that I'm going to be working on. It's an old pattern that I designed it. I don't have the pattern here with me. I designed it, here it is. In 2008. And I'm revamping it, and I'm going to change it up a little bit because I didn't like the original design. It was more of a kimono style with just buttons here at the top, and I want to make it a cardigan that's full length. But it's going to be sized for 3 months to 24 months because it's going to be a kind of an infant toddler sweater. So I don't have very many of those. So I thought I would get something down there in those sizes. And I designed it for a little girl. It's very lacy. So that's why we're doing little girl colors. So there you go. But I wanted, since I'm talking about Knitting Fever right now, I wanted to share this link with you. Knitting Fever has a program that helps shop owners, and I'm considered a shop owner because I'm a wholesale customer. In the future, I'm going to be doing some kits using Knitting Fever yarns, and they'll be for crochet alongs and things like that. In fact, I'm hoping, if this goes well, that my next crochet along in September, I'll be creating kits with the yarns from Knitting Fever. So if you're interested in any kits from Knitting Fever, there are some kits out there for crocheters as well. And most of them are knitting, but there's several crochet patterns. And if you use that link, that'll go to my shop local site. And what happens is if you purchase one of the kits there, I get 50% minus shipping of the cost that's there, and that is credited to me so that when I go to purchase some of the kits for my crochet along, I'll have a little bit of a credit there. So I don't have to lay out a ton of money up front. So if you're interested in any of those kits, they'll drop ship them to you. So make sure you use that link. That's what I call a pretty link. It says my URL with Shop Local, and it redirects you to the Knitting Fever site. So it's just something I thought I'd throw out there if you're interested in purchasing any kits from Knitting Fever. Go ahead and check that out. They don't have a huge number of kits for crochet, but I think I saw at least 5 this morning, if not more than that. So thought I'd share that with you just so you know it's available to you. The other thing I've been working on is I have a blanket that I've been working on for, I think I've shown you this many times, for a student of mine. And this is done in Red Heart bunches of hugs, and I'm going to show the link here so that you know where to get the bunches of hugs. This is the colorway Castle. And I thought I'd just share how it's erratically striping. Now I hit a part where it's a little more in the center rather than in the sides where the colors change. The cool thing about the way bunches of hugs is striped is they're not always the same in each color change. So sometimes you'll get a really long section of yellow or white or gray, and it changes how it stripes up the blanket in this case. So it's a really cool yarn. It's turning out really well. I'm almost done with the first skein. I'm about halfway, maybe a little more than halfway through the blanket. So I should probably finish it by the end of the week. So I'm really excited about that too. So I have some comments out here, so I want to make sure. Oh, okay. So yarn patterns, digital and print. Okay. That's what she would like me to talk about with how to organize. Stephanie says, good morning. Good morning, Stephanie. I'm glad you're here. And Ruth is here from Vermont. Hi, Ruth. It's good to see you. And Tanya, you're new to my live. So welcome from Mississippi. It's great to have you here. And cool kits from Karen. I can't wait. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, Linda. I'm hoping that they will be, I'll be able to do it. So we'll see how it all goes. Okay, so before we get talking about organizing things. Hi, Anna Louisa. It's good to see you here. We're going to talk today about organizing our stuff. I mean, that is definitely something that's going to be happening. I just have a question out there that I'd really like to talk to you about. If you were listening to my opening credits, you heard me say something about pattern clubs. And I'm thinking about doing some pattern clubs because a lot of you have said that you would like your books broken out into patterns, or unless there's 50% or more of the patterns you want to make, you wouldn't buy a whole book, so you'd rather have individual patterns. So I've been thinking about. I'm working on what was going to be a book, but now I'm thinking about doing it as a pattern club. So I have a question for you guys. And that question is, if I were to do a pattern of the month club, would you always want yearly themes, or would you rather have random patterns? So for example, if I were going to do a book of shawls or a group of shawls, would you want to have a pattern of the month club that was just shawls, and then sporadically throughout the rest of the year, I just release random patterns like this sweater or that market bag I showed you last week or things like that? Or would you like to just have a pattern of the month club where I release a pattern every month, and you would, because you are a subscriber, because it would be a club where you would subscribe and you have different ways of subscribing, either pay monthly, pay 3 months in advance, 6 months in advance, or for the full year in advance. Would you want them to be random patterns? Would you want them to be a theme? So I'm going to go over to the comments. You guys tell me what you would like to do. Tanya says, I can crochet dolls and things, but can't blankets. I get them even. Are you having trouble with keeping your sides even, where they're either expanding or getting narrower? Is that the thing, Tanya? Let me know. And I might be able to help you with that just a tiny bit before I get started with everything else. So, okay, so Karen is saying she'd like a theme every month. Or every year. So let me know, guys, what you're thinking. The way it would work is that if you subscribed to the Pattern of the Month Club, you would get the patterns discounted because you're paying either in advance for a whole year or 6 months or 3 months, or even just paying monthly for however long you want to continue. But if you just wanted to buy a single pattern, you would no longer get the discount. You'd probably get a little bit of a discount as a newsletter subscriber, if you're a subscriber to my newsletter, but you wouldn't get just anybody who doesn't subscribe to the newsletter would not get a discount on that at all. So let's see. Linda says she would love to sign up for a year subscription, and a theme and some random patterns would work out great. That would be okay. That gives you so you like the theme every year. So if I was going to do a theme every year, I'd give you the name of what the theme is so that you can decide if you want the random patterns or not, and just like that. Okay, so Ruth would like a theme also, and Stephanie in Texas, theme with some random, right? Okay, cool. Okay, so if I did a theme with random patterns throughout the rest of the year, those would be the random patterns. You would still, as a newsletter subscriber, get 25% off the new releases. So that's just something to think about too. So anybody else have thoughts on that at all? It just seems like that you guys are all liking the theme idea. So, and I do have some theme ideas that are in my head right now, including the theme for this book that I was thinking I was going to do as a book. But The reason I'm thinking Pattern of the Month Club rather than a book is because the cost of doing printed books is horrendous right now. Even my last book, before that, well, it hit just as the pandemic was starting, is Modern Italian Lace Crochet. The cost to print that book versus the 3 previous, A Garden of Shawls, Coastal Crochet, and Pineapple Passion, it was so much more, even with the same number of pages, that I had to charge more for that book. It's $27.95 rather than $24.95 for the first 2. And I think because Pineapple Passion's only 5 patterns, I think that's $17.95. But yes, that is something that that's why I'm thinking going this route. And I'm thinking about offering 2 different ways. If you want printed patterns, I would ship them to you. And if you wanted digital patterns, I would just send them to you digitally. And I'm thinking that since it's going to be a club, there might be a few little extras. So instead of paying, $5 for the pattern, you might pay $7, but you'll get a few extra little things that are included in that. And even if you got them digitally. So that's just something I'm thinking about in my head. So I haven't figured it completely out yet how it's all going to work together. But the other part of all of this is that I might work with the dyers for all the yarns for the patterns that I've already produced and see if I can either get discount codes for you, or if they want to do a giveaway for that month's pattern or something like that. So that would be another thing on top of it all. Okay. So Tanya, they get smaller. Okay, so one of the things I highly recommend for people, and those of you who might have this problem as well that aren't watching right now live, but okay, I'm gonna try to find my things here that I want to show you. Hold on. Okay, so I've got some stitch markers here that I'm just gonna, what I do to make the edges stop decreasing is I get 2 stitch markers, and I'm going to pull my blanket. Hang on, guys. There we go. Okay, so when I pull my blanket, get a little bonus tip today. All right, so I'm working on my blanket. I've got it upside down. When I do the first stitch of the first row, I put a stitch marker, whether it's the turning chain, if the turning chain is one of the stitches, or if it's not the first stitch, if you're not counting those first turning chains, then I would go into the very first actual stitch that you make. But if in this case, the turning chain is the edge of the row, I'm going to be working into it. I put one in that very first turning chain. And then when I get to the end of the row, I would put it in the last stitch. But normally what would end up happening is I would chain, like in this case, I'm chaining 2 and turn. So what I would do is I would chain 2 and turn. And then I'll do my first. I usually do the first stitch before I put the next stitch marker in. And because my turning chain is that first stitch, I put the turning chain there. So what happens is, Tanya, is that I have a turning chain that marks where the last stitch of each row goes. So in this case, I have these stitch markers here on the ends. That is what usually prevents your blankets from getting smaller. So whatever stitch you're doing, even if you're just doing straight up double crochets or half double crochets or single crochets, whatever, always making sure that you put your stitch where the last stitch of every row in the stitch marker, and then the first stitch goes into that same stitch, whether it's a turning chain or or you actually work into the first stitch. Usually single crochet and half double crochet, you don't need, you don't count the turning chain as a stitch, but double crochets and taller, the turning chain always counts as a stitch. So in this case, the way this texture is working, I have to use that turning chain in order to make my side straight. So that's the easiest way to do it. I hope that helps, because if you have to work into the turning chain, especially if you're doing like double crochets and you have to work into the turning chain, that's usually where people lose their stitches. So I hope that helps. If that's not the issue, you can always go to my website at KarenWhooley.com and send me a note, and I can see if I can help you out. So don't hesitate to do that if that's something that you want to do. Okay, so going back to the pattern of the month club, Linda says, when I get your patterns, I print them out and put them in a plastic sleeve and keep them in a notebook. Oh, thanks, Linda. I appreciate that. And Karen says, great tip. So common to drop the last stitch in the turning chain. Yes, that is the biggest reason. And if you're used to, Tanya, if you're used to working in the round and making animals and dolls and stuff like that, that's the biggest reason why is you're missing those turning chains, because you're not used to just going in a circle, that kind of thing. It's flipping back and forth. So definitely try that out and see if that helps. Okay, so let's talk about, let me go take this banner off. Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk about organization. So I'm going to go back through your list here. So Karen said yarns and patterns, digital and print. Let's see. We talked about, okay, so basically you guys want to talk about everything. It seems like nobody's given, well, Karen's the only one who talks about what they would like, she would like to see. If you have any suggestions, what you'd like to hear me talk about as far as organization, just drop it in the comments so that I can talk about it. I'm going to start with hooks because that's the fastest one to talk about. I have for the hooks that I use all the time. These are the color-coded crochet hooks from Addie Seltzer. Addie Skissel is the distributor here in the United States for them. They're German. They're color-coded. They also have they don't have the letters on them. They're done in the millimeters. So like this is 2 millimeter hook, that kind of thing. I put them in a case like this. And the reason I do that is because it's got a zipper on it. So I can just drop it in any project bag or that I have. And if I'm doing swatches like I am with this guy right here, the pink, I have all my hooks with me and I can, go back and forth and try different sizes and they're ready to go. This is also so that visually I know, okay, those are my go-to hooks. They're in a case like this. Okay. Now, with special hooks, I usually just throw them in a cup like this. I think you guys saw this last week. I have all these special hooks that are from different things. Here's a glass hook. Here's one that's got some polymer clay, little sheep on top, things like that. These are more decorative. I don't use them all the time, so I keep them in something like this. These are other hooks that I use often, plus it has some special hooks in it. It has the hook my grandmother gave me for the when I first learned to crochet, things like that. It has duplicate hooks for my what do you call it? The color-coded Addies. I have 2 of each one of these hooks, so they're there. I have all my steels, so when I go to work on something that's thread, I've got my steels in here. And I also have, I showed you guys these. These are the Prims because I like these, and they have a fatter end, and I haven't found quite a case for those yet. Plus, I have a couple other hooks that are that I can't fit in a case. Like this is an Addie 12 millimeter. And then I have another one that's a structured, that kind of thing. I also have a nail file in here. But these are kind of the hooks that I use. This case, Karen's asking me what are my favorite hook case brands. I'll be honest with you, this is my favorite. This is from Grace's Cases. You can look her up. She's on Etsy, I think. Grace's Cases is, oops, I should do this. Grace's Cases. Grace's Cases. She's my favorite. Other than that, it's trial and error. I've tried Della Q. I use Let me get these out. These, I don't know if you can get them anymore, but Lexi Barnes used to do hook cases. These are nice too. These are for other hooks. I usually like the kind of hooks that are like the cases that have the sleeves like this, where you can just drop the hook in. And usually, depending on the hook, this one doesn't have it. This one has their labeling on the middle of the hook, so it gets covered. But usually most hooks have something up here at the top that help with determining which hook. But I always like something that's got a zipper on it, so that, because I'm known for tossing like my Delacues, because they're usually rolled up. I have a Delacue, or I don't have the, this is the Delacues up here. Hang on, guys. I have Delacue. Here it is. Okay. So this is a Delacue case. I use this for my Tunisian hooks. There we go. These are my interchangeable Knitter's Pride Tunisian hooks. But the problem with something like this is that if you don't roll it up correctly, a lot of times your hooks will stick out here, and when you fling it or toss it into a bag, your hooks start falling out if you don't tie it tight enough, or if it doesn't have a zipper. For at least for me, my hooks fall out. So that's why I always like these that have the zippers on them. It doesn't mean I always zip them up. And case in point this morning is when I brought this upstairs from where I work downstairs and put it on my desk. It wasn't zipped, and one of the hooks fell out, and one of my cats running out, who happened to be sleeping in one of the cubbies behind me. So it was actually a good thing because it got her out of my yarn. So yes, that is what my favorite hook brands are. In fact, last week I showed you the boy hooks my grandmother gave me. That's also zippered, and I think that might be partially why I like the zippered ones, because my very first case was always a zippered one. Another style case. This is I got these at CGOA. There was she's on Amazon, but she had a booth at CGOA one year, and I think it was San Diego, actually. I cannot think of her name right now. Athena, something like that. This is a nice case because you have your hooks pointed up, but what I like about it is that it's got Velcro. So that's another option. And she's got plastic over the top here, so your hooks don't come out so easily. So this is another option. The only reason I don't like Velcro on stuff like this is because sometimes if you stick it in a yarn bag with yarn, your yarn gets caught in the Velcro and it kind of frays the yarn. So there you go. So let's see, what else do I have here? You can also find Grace's cases on Signature. Yes. Signature Needle Arts. Yes. Signature is a, they don't do crochet hooks anymore, or they never did do crochet hooks. Signature's knitting needles are usually really nice points and stuff like that, expensive. But I love Grace's cases, so definitely look at those. Tonya, great. Okay, so hopefully that helps, Tonya. If you have anything else, let me know, and I'd be glad to help. Let's see. Linda's favorite's boy, but Takumi and Denise change out the metal bamboo, but depending on the yarn you're using. Exactly. Yes, my cat does want to crochet. She just wants to lay in the yarn. They don't play with the yarn. They just lay in the yarn. Definitely check Grace's cases. This one at CGOA in Portland, Karen, just so you know. They were at the, actually I put this little key ring on it because they were at the DFW Fiber Fest booth. They were selling these cases, and that's where I got this one. And you like Signature Needle Arts too. Let's see. I've never bought a dedicated crochet hook case. I use an aluminum cigar thingy for my steel hook when I'm on a project and a freebie cosmetic case, and that's perfectly fine too. You have to find what works for you. I like being able to see all my hooks separately like this for the ones that I use normally. I do have this. I think I showed it to you last week. It's an old Band-Aid case that has a ton. I'm going to try to hold this up without a ton of wooden hooks on top, but then I just noticed at the bottom, I have a bunch of steel hooks too, or steel and metal hooks as well. That's where they all went. These are all my grandmother's steel hooks. There they are. These are all of them. I have a couple of them in the cups, but I forgot about these. These are here too. And this is the one that I know my grandmother used a lot because it's bent. This is a size 14, so you can't even see the hook on it, but it's bent. You can see there's a curve right here that's bent from using it. So yes. Okay, so that's what I do with hooks. Hooks, but you need to find something that you want for organization. If it's a little makeup bag, that's totally fine. If your hooks come with a case, like the old plastic Denise hooks used to come in a plastic case. Now they come in a rolled up case like this, a fabric case. These are my Denise interchangeables. Use that. This is perfect for the Denise plastics. Use those. I mean, I showed you the one from Athena that has the Velcro on it. That's her case. I'm just keeping them in that case. I have my daughter's hooks. Well, she gave me the case back because the hooks that are in here are not the ones she uses anymore. But this was a little bag of some sort that she had. I'm trying to, has a little handle. And I'm going to try not to drop all the hooks out of here. These are all her old hooks that she doesn't use. I'm keeping them here so that someday when I have grandkids. Oh! And that's why I don't like this case, because they all fall out. I'm going to have to pick those up after I'm done. But yeah, that was her old case. So there you go. So anything like that, makeup bags, things like that, they all work. Linda says the interchangeable has knitting and crochet cases. Yes. And a combination of both. Yes. And Della Q also used to have I haven't looked at Della Q for a while because she was sold to, I believe, Jimmy Bean's wool, but she used to have either or combination of cases too. So cool. And let's see, free cost. Yeah. The cosmetic cases and the Clinique cases, like Karen is saying, they all work really well. And they are popular. In fact, I have a couple of them in my purse that hold pens and stuff too. So they're not just for crochet hooks. Okay, so let's talk about paper patterns first. Okay. I'm not a huge, well, I used to be, I should say. I used to, when I first got on the internet and there were free patterns out there or people were sharing their own patterns, you know, when they first started selling them, that kind of thing, I'd buy them and I'd print them out, or I would copy and paste them if they were on a blog or something and put them on in Word so that they were in a decent format and I wasn't printing a web page. And then I would put them in a sleeve, just like Linda said, and then put them in a binder. Well, I've since then, because I had so many binders, I finally went through all those patterns, and some of them I just tossed because they weren't well written and there were things I would never make. And then the ones that I actually paid money for, I took out and I put them in file folders based on what they are. So I'm going to close this, I'm going to move this crochet hook so I don't step on it. And then I'm going to open, go over here. See this gray filing cabinet with the magnets on it? Those are all my sorority magnets. I was a Zeta Tau Alpha, if anybody's a Zeta Tau Alpha out there. Anyway, I have these cabinets, and these are all, I'm going to just pull out the first folder here. I have a few that I need to file, but I did these file folders. Now, this one is baby Afghans. I could see baby, I just couldn't see the rest of the word. This is all baby Afghans. So in this file folder, I have, I'm just going to pull this out. You guys are going to laugh because a lot of these are old. Wintec, remember Wintec? Yarn labels. So all of these are Wintec yarn labels. I have Karen Yarn Aplenty label. These are all patterns that are on labels. Okay, then Michael's, here's a free project sheet from Michael's. I've got an old Bernat label. So the old Red Heart label. This one's Red Heart Baby. And then there used to be, oh my gosh, Radiance. Do you guys remember Radiance yarn? Anybody? I'm dating myself. That was at Ben Franklin years ago. Okay, and then Annie's used to put out these little tiny leaflets. So I've got some of these old leaflets. This is a Lacy Baby Afghan. Here's some more labels. Softy, Jamie. You guys remember Jamie? Anybody? And so first up front, I have all of either the pattern tear sheets that Michael's and Joann's and all those places used to have. And I have the smaller patterns I used to get from, these are all from Annie's. Okay, there's another one. So that's the first thing I have in here. Then I have all of my Leisure Arts, and I don't even know what that is. Okay, but here's something I printed way back in the day. And it's got, okay, so this was by color, so I could do the stitching by color, but I don't know what the pattern was. But this is one of them that was in a folder that I didn't have. But I have all my old Leisure Arts. American School of Needlework. Do you remember these? Here's more Leisure Arts. Leisure Arts. Leisure Arts. These are all the old ones. Do you guys remember Annie's Attic? It used to be Annie's Attic when Annie Potter owned them. Mile a Minute Baby Afghans. That was a huge one. Here's another Leisure Arts. You can tell I loved Leisure Arts. Oh, do you guys remember Shady Lane? Anybody remember Shady Lane? I made this Afghan. This is a Noah's Ark Afghan. I don't know if you can see that. Dead and Baubles. Here's a better picture. Noah's Ark. My son went to preschool at Noah's Ark preschool. And so I made his teacher the year he graduated a Noah's Ark blanket. So just got dinged. My more Leisure Arts. So this is what I do is I have folders for all my printed patterns in my books, and they're broken out by how to by theme. So like this is, the theme is baby blanket. So everything in here is a baby blanket. This one is wrong, but here's one. This is a sweater, baby sweater, that I love making this baby sweater. This is a crochet baby sweater. It's easy. You start in a rectangle, and then the way you crochet it all comes together. I might have to make this sweater and redo the pattern because it's not written really, really well. But it's all made in one piece. You don't have any seams to sew. It's a shawl collar, and it doesn't have the website that I got it on. But see, this is one that's in the sleeves that I have in here. And then the pillows, and then the reversible. Oh, this is where my reversible Afghan is. Yes, I found it. Finally. I've been looking for this pattern. Okay. Anyway, guys. So this is what I do with all my paper patterns and my leaflets and if I buy a new leaflet, or if I give, some of my friends have sent me leaflets that they have done with Leisure Arts or Annie's, and that they want me to review. Once they're done, they go into this filing cabinet. That's how I remember. I want to show you guys these two because, or at least, yeah, these two are both. This is a series of Baby and Me. And Karen McKenna, do you know who that is on the cover? I used to work for Custom Crafts Inc. They are no longer doing crochet patterns. They are doing pretty much cross stitch, and I think they've gone on to quilting and things like that. But I used to work for them. I used to be their editor, and I used to be the one that would sign people to do crochet patterns for the crochet books. And this is my daughter. when she was a little girl. She's going to be 23 next month, but she was the model for both of these books. And I just thought I'd show you guys those. Those don't go in a folder because I show those off all the time. But that's what I do with my paper. Karen, I knew you'd know it was Cassie. Those drawers are heavy and they're getting full. At the very back of the bottom drawer, and I'm not going to get back there because there's a lot in front of it, but I do have the Stitch Dictionary. They're not really Stitch Dictionaries. They're more like paper leaflets that my grandmothers gave me. I have both my grandmother, my dad's mom who knitted, and my grandmother who taught me to crochet. Their patterns, for the most part, are in there. I do have a box in my closet of my nonna who taught me to crochet her Venetian lace things. There used to be a magazine in Italy that was kind of like a newspaper. It was done on some sort of newsprint type of thing, and she would cut out the patterns. And so they're all pictures. There's no words, and it's not all crochet. Some of it's embroidery and things like that. So that is how I deal with those. My grandmothers are very fragile, so I haven't figured out what I want to do with those yet, with all those Venetian lace patterns. They're still in the box that I got them in. So eventually I will figure that out. Let's see. Pat says, I file my printed patterns the same way, except in a portable file box, not a box cabinet. Not in a cabinet. And that's a good idea too. Like the big financial boxes that they used to have with the tabs in it. You could do that too. I know I've seen people do that. You can still do them in the binders if you print them out from the web. That's not a bad thing. If you have a bookcase that you don't mind just having them in binders, that's great. I used to separate them also in the binders. So all the baby Afghans, all the baby clothing, all the, home decor, or if I wanted to even break it down further, I could do dishcloths, which I do in here. I have dishcloths and I have blankets, adult blankets or full-size blankets. I have wedding. I have socks, both knit and crochet. And I don't, because I am a knitter and crocheter, I don't separate knit and crochet, just because it's easier to just have one folder and just go through it and find the patterns that you want. So, I have to put this up. Uma, I know a lot of people who call their grandmothers Uma. Nonna is what I always call her. And when I talk to people most of the time, I call her Nonna because most people know Nonna means grandmother in Italian. But for some reason in this industry, I'll switch it back and forth between grandmother and nonna. And the funny thing is both of my grandmothers were 100% Italian. But my nonna Parducci, which is my mom's mom, who taught me to crochet, she wanted to be called nonna. That was it. But my dad's mom did not want to be called nonna. She wanted to be called grandma because she wanted to be differentiated so that when we said nonna, we knew we were calling my mom's mom. And when we said grandma, we were talking about her. And I'm going to wait here for, my phone is ringing. So hang on a second, guys. It's buzzing on my wrist. Anyway, and I don't know what that number is. So I'm not going to answer it. Anyway, so one was a knitter, one was a crocheter, but they both did the opposite. So I would, that was another way to differentiate them, was that grandma was the knitter and nonna was the crocheter. But even though, grandma was the tatter and she also did a little bit of crochet, but not just mostly edgings on her knitted stuff. And then nonna, I don't know that she tatted because I never got anything from her that was tatting. So I don't think she tatted. But she was a knitter. She did knit and she was a seamstress. I mean, she made beautiful clothing. The dress she wore to my wedding, she made to wear at my mother's wedding. And it was pristine. So that's kind of why I go back and forth though. And then Pat says she's buying. Yes, that's the reason why I started separating them out. And in fact, when we moved from the west side here, I had to take that whole cabinet apart and box everything. And I had to box it in like 4 different boxes because it got so heavy. So that's what I do with my printed patterns. Now I'm going to go to digital in just a second, but I want to talk about print books. Print books, I'm still trying to find the best way to organize them. I have them in a bookcase. I'm going to move this so that you guys can see. I have this bookcase, see right there under my window? Oh, they're not organized right now. I don't know if you can see. This is a cube set from IKEA. The only thing I can tell you is this cube right here where you see my essential oils in it, as well as a bunch of books. Those are all my Stitch dictionaries. And not even all of them. I have a few more that are in another cube. But I do have my knitting separated. Now let me find them. They're down here. They're the second from the left. Those are my knitting books. And then I have like a section here where, I don't know if you can see design crochet. It's an old book. Those are the kind of more of books that some of them are Stitch dictionaries, but many of them are how to do different techniques that I use for design work. So and then I have a book in there. I don't know if you saw it. It's a knitwork and design workshop. That is a knitting book that talks about sweater construction, and I do refer to that a lot. So they're all mixed up right now because since we moved here, I haven't had time between all my treatments and everything to sit and organize them all. But usually what I do is I have all my design books on the top shelf, and I have all my Stitch dictionaries together, and I have all of the other technique books, because I have things like, let's see, I have Couture Crochet by Lily Chin, and I have Mosaic Crochet by Lily Chin. And then I have books like, let's see, Modular Crochet and Design Crochet that are on the shelf. Stitch dictionaries I talked about. And then I have some business books for crochet. There's like Crocheting for Fun and Profit, which is out of print now. You can't get things like that. So there are all sorts of different books. And then you also saw some binders over there. Those binders have in them all of my leaflets that I've ever produced, whether I did them myself or I did them with Leisure Arts or Annie's or anybody else. I have a few in there from custom crafts when I was working for them that I did. So all the leaflets, I have one original of everything I've ever done. And then I have another one that has what we call tear sheets. And if you've never heard that terminology before, a tear sheet is, so let's say I crocheted, well, I used to do a lot of design work for Crochet Magazine. And so a tear sheet is my pattern that was inside a magazine, and I tear it out. And it used to be, before we went digital, when you would design for a magazine and you were introducing yourself to someone else, you would have multiple tear sheets from different patterns from different magazines or different companies or whatever, and you would send those to the editor that you're trying to work with so they can see your work. So any physical magazine I was in, I have the patterns in there. Some of the magazines, I kept the entire magazine. Like it was interesting because when I did some designs for Interweave Crochet, they would send me like 5 copies of the magazine. So I would tear out 3, but I'd keep the 4th one, or the 5th one. I tear out 4, and I had the 5th one I would keep because I just loved the way they used to package Interweave Crochet back then. So that's what those binders are. And then I used to, when I was still Crochet Legacy and KRW Knitwear Studio, those two, when I was under those 2 brands, I would print out all my patterns and put them in a binder. So one of those binders are those old patterns that most of them are out of print now. And then finally I did, there's a binder there that I should share. When my son was in 1st grade, our school used to do a school auction, and every class had to do a project to put in the auction. And everyone knew that I crocheted, and they wanted me to do something that the kids could get involved with my crochet. So what we did was we gave them, I think they were 7-inch cut linen squares, and we did their fingerprints, and they did little flowers with their fingerprints. And then when someone puff painted on them their names, so we knew who was who. Oh, this was kindergarten. I did that. In first grade, what we did, and it was the same project, but 2 different things. So the kindergarten, we did the fingerprints with their names on them. In second grade, first grade, we did their photograph that we ironed on, and then on a piece of paper, they had them write what they wanted to be when they grew up. They wrote their name, and then, like Tyler said, he wanted to be a veterinarian. So, and it was in their handwriting. We made them into an iron-on that we ironed onto the fabric, and then I had them quilted. And I had, each square was quilted, and I had them hem stitched, so there were holes all the way around. So I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but they used to do it with cotton towels. And then I crocheted them together using those holes and did edgings on them. And I remember the kindergarten one sold for almost $2,000 at the auction. So that's why they had me do another one in first grade, and I know that one sold for even more. So that was the third. The last binder there was all the photographs, because the mom who helped me with it all, she printed all their pages out on paper and put them in a photo album for me. So that's the other one. Okay, so anyway, last thing, let's talk digital patterns. I'm going to click on this really fast. So digital patterns, when I purchase them, or if I get a free pattern from somebody, like Cascade Yarns did the Knitterati Afghans, where you would get a free pattern for a knitted square, and then you put the squares together. If you remember their newsletter, or you could buy them for $1 on Ravelry way back in the day. I still am a subscriber to their newsletter, but when they would send those out, I would just save them. And what I did was I created a folder. I use iCloud because I have an iPad and I have an iPhone. So by saving them in a folder on iCloud, allows me to access them from my computer. I can access it from my iPad or my iPhone. So even though I use a Windows computer. So I have a folder in iCloud, and I'm going to show you that right here. I might just do it in a large screen here. Okay, so I have a folder here in iCloud. Up at the top, it says iCloud Drive, and it says Download Patterns. That is where I would just dump all the patterns. And you can see I have a few folders here, and then I have all the patterns. And you can see, even if you look at the dates modified, you can see 2017. And a lot of these dates are actually older than what you see here. 2017 is when I switched computers. You can see here, like this one is I downloaded in May of this year. So these are all the downloaded patterns. And obviously, some of them have really weird names, like up at the very top, where you've got like, or here's one. I just passed it. You know, there's an L10572. I have no idea what that is. If I hover over it, it tells me it's a free knitting pattern, Vanna's Choice drapey cardigan. So obviously, I got that from Lion's Brand. Here's another one probably from Lion Brand, but it doesn't tell me, it doesn't give me any. Oh, here it goes. Heartland Andover Poncho. So that was also a Lion Brand one. Here's another one that's Deco Mesh Wreaths. I know that one is a pattern from Annie's. But a lot of these, you know, here's the Knit Girl magazine they had back in the day in Knit Edge. So it would take me forever to try to find them. So what I've been trying to do slowly is, oh, and then I should mention here the Cascade magazine. So they did a Christmas Afghan last year. So these are all of the downloads for the Afghan with everything. So that was that Afghan. And then in here is their Knitterati Afghan. So those are all the patterns and updates. You'll notice like here, there's 12. They updated it one to 3 times because there was a problem. So I just kept them all. I never deleted the old ones when they sent an update out. Hotel of Bees, you guys probably all know this pattern. This was a pattern I just put it in its own folder so I knew where it was, and they had 2 different versions. And then any PDF magazines I get, I have usually made a folder for them. So I have Cast On, Crochet Savvy, Inside Crochet, Love of Knitting, Occupied. Then I have like Happily Hooked, Interweave, Knitting. I purchased for a pattern in it. Here's the Knit Edge. And then I threw in here some extra stuff like Know Your Rights. This was this copyright book about copyright, and spring bonus issue. I have no idea who that was for. Filament. I have no idea what that's for. So there you go. And then any books that I got. So like across the board here, those were the CGOA board books when I was on the. Well, no, some of these were when I wasn't on the board of directors, but there are some here that I had when I was on the board of directors. Any books that I bought as a digital book or received a digital copy with purchase of the print book, like this one, Parliament of Cowls. I know I got the print book, but I also got the digital book, which is cool. And then some of these are also, just so you know, they are, I can't even describe what I'm thinking of. When a designer wants me to review a book, they send me a free book. So that's what, they send me a free digital copy. So those are all in there. But you'll notice here now I'm starting with shawl patterns. So I only have 1 shawl pattern in there right now. I've done some sock patterns. But I did this on purpose so you guys could see how I'm going to do this. But what I'm literally going to do is some of these, I have no idea what this particular pattern is right here. I'm going to open it up right now. I have no idea what it is. I'm going to have to, here's a pattern. Okay, so this was a knitting pattern. So it's a knitted shawl. So I'm going to put that in the shawl folders. So that's how this works is as I go through them, I'm probably going to go through all these numbered ones first because they're all, and figure out what folder they need to go in. And I might rename them all too, so that I know what they should look like. That's really the hard part of this is not knowing what they should look like, what they are. So that is why I am going to do that. So I'm going to go back through here and just see what people are saying. I keep my patterns on a flash drive. They're arranged by where I got the pattern. That's good too. Doing it on flash drive is good too. I'm doing it on the cloud because I want to be able to access my patterns wherever I go, because a lot of times I'm working on a pattern that I purchased, and I want to bring my iPad with me to use for the pattern so I don't have to print out the pattern. So that's why I use that. In fact, all of my work in progress patterns are done on the cloud so that I can always access them no matter where I am. Yeah, digital patterns dating back to 2010. Yeah, at least some of them are older than that on mine. It's just that when I switched computers and the way I had to transfer my files, it changed the date on a lot of them. I used to do the flash drive thing too. Had older ones on a flash drive, but I think that, yes. And so that's the reason I don't use flash drives anymore, because of the virus risk. If you're using it only on your own computer, you don't have as big of a risk. But what I like about the cloud is I also don't have to worry about corruption. So if I have all my patterns stored on a flash drive and nowhere else, backed up nowhere else, they're gone. And if the flash drive dies, they're gone. Same thing with the virus thing. There are places where you can take a flash drive to clear a virus, but even then, you don't know if it's corrupted those files. So you should always have a backup somewhere. And I like the cloud. Just because I know it's always being backed up. I know it's always, I've been using iCloud for a little while now, but I used to use Google Drive a lot and never had a corruption issue with Google Drive. So far, I've been using iCloud for about a year now, maybe, or a little less than a year. I actually got it. I got it when I got my iPad, so it might have been around November. So I'm close to a year. I'm getting close to a year, and I haven't had an issue. So there's that. Let's see. Eventually, I want to sort them by folded by yarn weight. That's actually a good idea. I never thought of that. By yarn weight is cool too. Or even because I'm going to be renaming a lot of these, I might actually put in there what weight yarn is in the title so I can find them. You bought an external drive, so I think I'll back you. Yeah, that's a good idea. My husband actually, we have a server because he works at home full time too, and he's directly below me downstairs. And he actually set up a space on that server that I have all my crochet. He calls it Crochet Land. That's the name of my area, and it's got everything on there, and that gets backed up also. So not only do I have the files in the cloud, I also have them on the server, and I have them because the server automatically brings iCloud on there, and then that gets backed up. So I have backup on backup on backup. So there you go. Does Google Drive or iCloud charge for space in the cloud? Google Drive does not unless you start running out of space. I think you get 15. I think you get 15 megs or 15 gigs. I can't remember what that is. It's something, or 5. Maybe it's 5 megs. And then I used to pay $1.99 to get 10. And I was getting close on that. iCloud, because I've restructured what I have in the cloud and what I have now on our server, I am only using 50. Let me look. Hang on a second, guys. I can tell you what I got. On iCloud, I have to open this. I'm going to move my camera here for a second so I can see where I need to have a window. And open up iCloud. Open iCloud Drive. Okay. Well, I use iCloud too because I have an iPhone and it automatically uploads all my photographs. So whenever I do a photograph, it's automatically saved to the cloud. Go to iCloud.com. That's what I want. I pay $2 a month for oh gosh, I always forget. Apple does this thing where you have to allow. I need the code. You're not opening it. Yes, trust this browser. If you're not opening it on an iPad or or Mac or an iPhone, it asks you to do a double. It's the protection. So I have 200 gigs that I pay $2 a month for my iCloud settings. I knew it was $2. I mean, yes, $2 a month for 20 gigs, 200 gigs. Sorry. So there you go. So that's what iCloud. Google, I had a lot less space for $2. Just so you know on that. I'm gonna fix my camera again. So there's that. So anybody have any questions for me? I know we're past 10 o'clock, but I just thought I would show that all to you. Anybody have any questions for me? I'm gonna close these windows so they're not flashing on my screen. If you do the cloud, you want to watch your space. I'm not a big fan of Google much anymore because Google does do a lot of tracking. And that's something I should tell you guys. I don't use Google Analytics anymore on my website. I have a new analytics software that tells me who's visiting my, it doesn't tell me who's visiting my site, but how many visits and what links are being clicked and stuff like that. But it does not track any personal information. I don't know your IP address. I don't know who you are, nothing. They just process what pages are hit and how many times, and what the date is. So I'm not tracking you. So with Google Analytics, anytime someone came to my website, your personal information was sold, and I don't like that at all. So that's why I got rid of Google Analytics. So so there you go. Okay, so Linda says, are any of the yarns an ugly color? What do you mean by that? Oh, a Halloween pre-order. Oh, so you did the Halloween pre-order. Okay, missed that. I don't think so. I love them. She had an inspiration image that was actually a Halloween cake with a bunch of different colors. There's 13 colors on that. So I don't think they're ugly. They're all Halloween somehow, whether they're a dark color or a light color. But the way I put them all together, I hope you guys will like them. So I don't think there's an ugly color in the bunch at all. So I really like the way, and I like the way the crochet project turned out. I haven't seen the knit project, so I don't know what the knit pattern looks like. I know they used the colors in the same order I did, but that was the one thing we had to do, and I got to choose what order I used them in. So I like the way they came together. You're going to have, you're always going to have surprise packages. There might always be a color you don't necessarily like. The Bewitched cowl, I really didn't like that really bright orange yellow in it that I did. That was a Harry Potter themed one. I just did another kit for her. The same one that you got, the Halloween one. I just did another pattern, and even my kids who were here this weekend for Father's Day said that those colors were amazing. So I think she did a really beautiful job for this particular kit that I just finished. It's on my blocking board. So that's my super secret project I've been alluding to. I finished it this weekend. So I mean, Linda, don't necessarily, I mean, there might be a color there you don't like, but I'm hoping that the way I put them together will make them work. So I can't even remember all the colors right now. That project's in photography, so that the pattern will be ready when she's ready to ship the kits. So anyway, I'm glad you ordered it. So anyway, guys, it is almost 10 after 10. Before I go any farther, I just want to make sure there's no other questions out there for me about organization. And if there is, leave me a comment here on YouTube, or you can go to my website and leave me a comment. Or if you're watching this on Rumble after the fact, you can leave it there as well. Whether you're watching live or not, if you ever have a question for me, you can always go to my website and ask me the question there on my contact form, or you can leave a question here in the comments. Now, I don't always check the comments as often as I should, but I do check them. So if you do leave me a question, I'll answer it. It just might take me a little bit here. The best way to get a hold of me is through my website. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do my closing, and then I'll come back and say goodbye to anybody who has any more other comments in the chat room. But if you're watching after the fact, I want to thank you for watching this far. And don't forget to go to my website at KarenWhooley.com. Everything that there is about Karen Whooley Designs can be found there. You can also subscribe to my newsletter either through the form that's on the website, or you can go direct to this link. And you can subscribe, and you'll immediately get my Pache pattern for free. That's a free pattern for 2021. It's a brand new pattern. No one else has it unless you're a newsletter subscriber. So make sure you subscribe to get that. If you're here on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on Rumble and want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you go to this link. That's my YouTube channel. And also you can follow me on Instagram at Karen Whooley. This is where I am the most active. So if you want to follow along there, that's great as well. If you are watching on YouTube and want to check out Rumble, that is my Rumble channel right there. I always upload these videos after I finish the lives. And you can subscribe there as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. And there's something there called a Rumble. And if you click the Rumble button, it's like a like. It's like the thumbs up on YouTube, which I'm asking, if you haven't clicked the thumbs up on YouTube, make sure you click it right now. And that is it for today. I'm just going to hit the comments one more time and just make sure I'm going to say goodbye. Nobody has said goodbye today, so I'm just going to go ahead and say goodbye. And I will see you next week. And if you have any ideas of things that you would like to see me talk about in the future, make sure you tell me, and I will make sure to add those to my queue. So anyway, guys, I will see you next week. I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. It's going to be a hot one here. We're supposed to get up to as high as 115. So if you're inclined, please say some prayers for me that I survive this heat. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great week.